dog. He's such a good boy. Come here. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Boy. Good dog. Come here. Hey. Come here. Come here. Come here. Boy. Good dog. Boy. Good dog. Hmm. Come here.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, come here. Come here. Come on. Come here. Oh, he's such a good boy. What a good dog. What a good dog. He's such a good boy. Come here.
I know.
Hey. Come on. Come here. Oh, he's such a good boy. What a good dog.
Mm.
Come here. Hey, come here, come here. Come on, come here. Oh, he's such a good boy. What a good dog. What a good dog. He's such a good boy. Come here. Hey, come here, come here. Come on, come here. Oh, he's such a good boy. What a good dog. What a good dog. He's such a good boy.
Okay, so here I am at day 3. I don't even remember where I left off last. I'm pretty sure it's right around here somewhere. But maybe if I took a moment to like talk about what I've learned so far. I think it was around here. So what I think I understand so far is Canada took a deliberate. It's not that much different than what you see happening in the United States right now, where first and foremost, Canada saw itself as a Christian nation. Now, whether or not it actually did or was hiding behind Christianity in order to move some sort of agenda, some sort of you know, gather the people around them to that are also Christian to justify certain things. I'm just checking to see if you can actually hear me and stuff. Yeah. You can. All right. So for instance, like what's happening in the United States right now, it's a lot of the evangelicals and Mormons are, got somebody like Trump who to move a certain agenda. But Trump himself isn't Christian. I don't even think he has any kind of Christian beliefs. But he has power, and he's getting rich off of his position. And I believe Canada did the same thing back in the 1800s and lasted until, well, probably still going on, actually. I don't think they've ever stopped. But Canada had signed agreements because when the British came over to North America and they tried to colonize Canada, they met the indigenous people who the British assumed, oh, they just got bows and arrows. We're going to be able to kill these people with our sophisticated tools. That didn't happen. That seems to be a story that's as old as time, where people with technologically advanced weaponry feel superior to those who don't have who don't rely upon that. They rely upon their wits and they know the terrain. So the British couldn't defeat the indigenous people. They were far too strong. They knew different warfare, guerrilla tactics and whatnot, and they were outmatched. So so they signed treaties with the indigenous people. So they signed treaties with the indigenous people, and the treaties were basically, look, we're not gonna bother you guys. You guys don't bother us. The resources here on the land are going to be shared to all three people. You know, the indigenous people who are the rightful owners will share with the French and the English. But the French and English got together and said, we don't like this deal. let's um let's just absorb the indigenous population into our population because we're superior to them. So let's wipe out their culture, and then that will negate the treaties altogether. They'll become servants of the crown or servants of Christ or whatever. And so their plan was to get rid of the culture and assimilate them. And let's do it in cruel ways, the way that genocides usually happen. So that's my understanding of where I'm at. So, well, okay, then the Truth and Commission report, 800 years past or 500 years past. The last school closed down in the 90s, and they funded these schools that were actually not very well funded, and they have inadequate heat, inadequate food, and the children there. It was the same tactic. The priests and the government projected their poor childhood rearing onto the loving parents who love these children. Said, you guys can't possibly take care of your children because you haven't been doing that for the past time immemorial. You've been here for 10,000 years. And not once in those 10,000 years have you taken care of your children. Luckily, here we are, to help you. We're going to take them from you because you don't know what you're doing, which is absurd. Then they began abusing the children, doing the very thing that they were accusing the indigenous people of doing to their children. Get it? Projecting. So the report is strongly emphasizing on that abuse. However, as far as I can understand, Canada didn't create a policy to abuse children. They created a policy to ethnically cleanse or to culturally genocide the people. And in every genocide, it's like a tick box that you're gonna have to, you have to kind of tick off as soon as we human beings do this thing. First thing is attack the children. Rape is another checkbox. We're going to rape people. We're going to have mass graves. And they did all of these things. It doesn't matter if it was cultural genocide, biological genocide, chemical or reproductive genocide. They did all those things. It's genocide. It's still genocide. They keep doing these atrocities, and it's been done in Iraq, not Iraq. Sorry, well, it probably is going to be happening in Iraq, but in Israel with the Palestinians, it happened in Sarajevo, in Bosnia, the Bosnian genocide. It's happened in the Holocaust. It just keeps happening. The same methodology. It's quite fascinating. It's horrific. But I think it's important to read about this because the indigenous people never let go of the culture. But that's not true. I think that we are forgetting. And I think the influence of commercialization and capitalism is probably doing way more damage culturally than the schools ever did. But it's like there's different degrees of influence, and they had mentioned being influential. The state wanted to be influential to the indigenous people, and they figured, let's sever the connection between the children and their parents, because their parents are very influential to the children. And so that's why they took them away from the families and put them in residential schools so that the parents didn't have influence. But now that influence is being severed in everyone's homes. We're all being influenced. Our children are being influenced by cell phones, right? And it's 24 hours. And that's what they said in this Canada's plan. We need to influence the Indigenous child 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And that's what we're self-influencing. This addiction that the technological companies have designed is influencing us and severing our relationship between one another. And I don't want to diminish the severity that Canada did by saying things like, oh, our addiction to technology is just like Auschwitz. That's not what I mean. I don't mean that at all. It's not. I'm saying that governments and corporations have never stopped trying to influence the people. They'll do it in every way possible. And they'll do it in overt, violent ways. And they'll do it in sneaky, here's a carrot way. But it's still damaging. And it's all about control. All right. So that's what I'm getting. There's more. There's way more. The damage that we think that culture, when we talk about culture today, because of our mentality where we compartmentalize different aspects of ourselves and we figure, okay, well, this science has Well, actually, science is kind of doing it. Religion is over here, and my hobbies are over here, and my work is over here, and my love life is over here, and they are all separate, and they don't affect one another. When that's wrong, that's not true. They actually do affect one another. And culture is that thing that is all of it, all together. How we participate in every aspect of how we work, how we treat our friends, what we consume for entertainment, how we create entertainment, how we spend our money. It's all culture. So it's very, very important. And to influence someone's culture is to influence and control one's autonomy and agency, especially if you're creating laws that prevent you from moving, prevent you from um, practicing your own spirituality, practicing or talking to your parents in your own language. Okay, so here we are. We are page 37 of 388. Now, day 3. So it's like 10 pages a day, something like that. I don't even know if anybody's listening, which is fine. I don't care because look, I'm doing this. It's out there. All right. Um. First, the federal government declined to produce all. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The federal government declined to produce all relevant documents held in its national archives. The Library and Archives in Canada. Library and Archives Canada took a position that it was not required to organize and produce to the Commission up to 5 million documents in its possession that were directly relevant to residential schools. Library and Archives Canada maintained that the settlement agreement required it to provide the Commission only with access to its archives. A lengthy process. And then they went to court. And the court said, no, not just access. You have to provide all relevant documents held by the government of Canada, wherever they may be held, must be produced to the Commission. Following the rule, the government of Canada began producing documents from Library and Archives Canada to the Commission. Less than a year later, the Commission once again was required to go to court for judicial guidance respecting Canada's document production obligations. At issue were records in the possession of the Government of Canada from the investigation of Ontario Provincial Police to the abuse at Fort Albany, Ontario, the residential school in Ontario, also known as St. Anne's School. The Commission had attempted to obtain the OPP documents from both the OPP and the federal government, although the OPP did not respond to the Commission's overtures. It later took the position that it required judicial authorization to produce the records to the Commission, but it did not oppose disclosure. The thing is, okay, and it's kind of weird because I kind of knew it, that, see, what I'm getting at is the way the governments acted when we were campaigning to recognize that there were residential schools, that was an act of genocide. Canada acted dumb. What? No. There was never any abuse. We never intended any of that. That never happened. But they did. They even said so at the House of Commons, where that was the entire plan. And now they're refusing to hand over documents. It's like if you ever go to and go to a protest and you're about to get arrested, they say that you shouldn't resist. You shouldn't stiffen up and try to not get picked up. You're easier to be picked up that way. You should go limp. and your dead weight is difficult to pick up and handle. That's what this seems like to me. It's a form of legal dead weight. We don't want to move. We don't make us do these things. So you got to go to court. You got to argue. But it did not oppose disclosure. The government of Canada, however, opposed production. The government of Canada, however, opposed production of the documents to both the commission and to the lawyers for residential school survivors. It's just like playing dead. The government took the position that it was barred from producing the documents because they obtained the documents from the OPP subject to an undertaking that it would not, in turn, disclose the documents to any third party. The government of Canada further argued that it was not obliged to seek documents from third parties for disclosure to the Commission, and that any disclosure to the Commission of the St. Anne's records would amount to burdening the government of Canada with its obligation. What in the hell does that mean? Oh, it would. Oh, it's so difficult to. Oh, it's a burden to produce these documents. Oh, it's all you guys do with documents. You're bureaucrats. It's your job. Oh my god. That's hilarious. What? Um, October 18, 2013, the Commission filed a request for direction as to whether the Government of Canada was obliged to disclose the records to the OPP investigation of St. Anne's. After argument before the Honourable Justice Paul Parrell of the Ontario Supreme Court of Justice on December 17th and 18th, 2013, the court ordered Canada to produce its documents to the Commission. Recognizing that Canada had only a subset of the OPP investigation documents, the court went one step further and ordered that the OPP produce all the investigation records in its possession to the Commission. Less than a year after Justice Parrell rendered his decision in St. Anne's case, the Commission was faced with yet another document collection issue that called for court guidance. Oh, God. Oh, God, that must have been like... Why is there 3 notifications? Less than a year after Justice Parrell rendered his decision in St. Anne's case, the Commission was faced with yet another document collection issue that called for court guidance. The documents at issue were records from the independent assessment process. The IAP is one of the components of the settlement agreement. The IAP is an adjudicative process for financial compensation to residential school survivors who suffered serious abuse at residential schools. Consequently, the body that administers the IAP process, the Indian Resident School Adjudication Secretariat, is in possession of wealth of documents relevant to the legacy of Indian residential schools. The thing is, okay, yes, the abuse is horrendous and should not have happened. But I am also very concerned that the attempt to wipe out an entire culture should also be illegal. And you still have to abide by the treaties that were signed. That lasts until as long as the rivers flow and the grass grows. The Residential School Settlement Agreement provides that survivors who go through the IAP can give their consent to have their statements and testimony archived within the archive created by the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation for future research. The intention was apparently to eliminate the need for a survivor to have testified before an IAP adjudicator, and then have to repeat the same story to the TRC. From mid-2010, that must have been horrible. From mid-2010 to early 2012, the Commission engaged in negotiations with IRSAC to archive and preserve those documents. The parties' discussions focus on the development of a consent form for IAP claimants to sign during the IAP process. The consent form would explain to IAP survivors how their information would be shared with the Commission and would allow them to provide written consent to the sharing of their stories. It's like this is kind of meta, really. They're documenting the documentation of the documents. That's freaking funny to me. That's really funny. We are. This is what we did. We're writing it out as we are writing it out, and we are describing what we are writing out. Oh my God. The Commission had discovered that IAP staff and adjudicators have repeatedly failed to inform survivors of their right to have their. Oh my God. They have one job. To have their statements delivered to the TRC's archive, and instead had required an undertaking of strict confidentiality of all parties to the IAP hearings, including the survivors themselves. In June 24th, they didn't care. They just didn't care. What the hell is that? In June 2014, the chief adjudicator of IAP publicly announced that he supported the immediate destruction of all documents related to adjudication of claims by residential school survivors. Don't destroy those documents. The Commission emphasized that the requirement of strict confidentiality imposed by IRSAS was incompatible with the terms of the settlement agreement. Furthermore, the Commission stated that the destruction of some of IAP documents would constitute a major loss for future generations of Canadians. Yeah. We can't let this happen again. The Commission and IRSAS were unable to come to an agreement as the mechanisms for allowing the Commission to access the documents, and the matter was brought before Justice Perel for direction. In the hearing held from July 14 to 16, 2014, the Commission advanced the position that a notice program should be ordered by the court, which would allow IAP claimants to be notified that they may share their IAP testimony with the Commission should they so desire. The Commission narrowed the categories of the documents it sought to preserve in recognition with the legitimate privacy interests of IAP survivors. The commission argued that it sought only to archive the IAP application, transcripts, and audio recordings from the IAP hearings and IAP adjudicator decisions. On August 6, 2014, Justice Perel delivered reasons in which he held that the IAP documents would be subject to a 15-year retention period, during which a notice program to survivors would be administered by the Commission or the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. The precise parameters of the notice program will be decided by the court in a subsequent hearing. Importantly, Justice Perel ruled that every copy of the IAP documents, no matter who possesses them, must be destroyed after the conclusion of the retention period of IAP claimants. Do not consent to having documents archived. I can understand, though, like, the want of, like, the survivors who want the documents destroyed. There's probably a lot of shame and pain associated with it. And there are people out there who probably would access these stories for their own selfish purposes. Because come on, there are people like that, right? I get it, but at the same time, it's like really important that we learn from this. It's it's a touchy subject, for sure. So how do you how do you go around that? Who knows? Well, maybe they did. They found a way. They know. They found a way. Just keep reading, Gary, and you'll find out. Justice Perel also directed that the commission commence a further request for direction and return to court for determination of the issue of the parameters of a notice program to inform survivors about their option to archive their IAP application. The transcripts and audio recordings of their hearings and decisions with the commission. The commission, along with the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, has been entrusted to commence further proceedings to determine how to engage claimants in the exercise of ensuring informed consent on the issue of the fate of their records. Justice Perel's ruling is the subject is the subject of appeal. The commission feels strongly that any steps taken to ensure that the informed consent of survivors is obtained must be robust, culturally appropriate, and sensitive to the challenges of contacting survivors, some of whom cannot read, have problems speaking English or French. It seems that their education program wasn't really there to educate them. Or it was so the school was so traumatic that nothing is gonna it's just not gonna stick, right? You're not gonna it's not a place for learning. Who can learn if you're being looked at like a piece of meat and you're just a kid and you've been taken away from your family and you're told that you're inferior? Who can learn under those circumstances and reside in remote locations? The commission believes that it's not enough that a notice simply be mailed to the last known address of survivors. The multifaceted and a personal approach that actively engages survivors is required. The commission strongly believes that the survivor stories must be preserved. The loss of these documents would be a blow to Canada's national memory of a significant historic injustice, could contribute to the possibility that future generations would never know of the abuses in residential schools. It could contribute to the argument of those who would assert that this never happened. Yeah, denial is one of the symptoms of genocide. The commission intends to vigorously advance a position to prevent the destruction of the IAP documents without the informed consent of individual survivors. The national events. The 4-day national events served as important milestones over the course of a commission's 6 years mandate, as well as offering a forum for survivors and their families The national events raised public awareness of the history and legacy for residential schools. They also built momentum for the collective journey towards national healing and reconciliation, a journey that will need to continue well beyond the Commission's closing ceremony. Traditional knowledge and practice guided much of the Commission's work. The 7 sacred teachings of the Anishinaabe, respect, courage, love, truth, humility, and honesty, and wisdom, served as the themes for 7 national events. The ceremony and traditional observance played an important part of the national events. Sacred fires were lit at the beginning of each national event, and every day's proceedings began with a ceremony. As much as possible, the observances followed the cultural protocols, customs, and traditions of the Aboriginal peoples in whose territories the Commission was a guest. Similar ceremonies were held at regional and community events. Education was a key part of the Commission's mandate. Where was I? Although students were involved in the national events beginning at the 3rd national event in Halifax and at all subsequent national events, local schools were invited to send students to take part in a day of learning. These education days were also part of the regional events on Vancouver Island and in Yukon. And a stand-alone event was organized in Toronto for students from the surrounding area. In all, more than 15,000 students participated by attending presentations and cultural performances, observing and taking part in the panel discussions and workshops, the visiting displays in the learning places. The Commission organized activities to help teachers prepare their students for the national event education days and consider follow-up activities in the classroom. In addition, the Commission worked with universities, educators, and traditional knowledge keepers to hold academic conferences and panel discussions at national events on a number of topics related to the legacy of colonialism in residential schools and on healing and reconciliation. Cultural performances were also key elements of each national event. Through concerts and talent shows, thousands of people experienced some of the richness of the Aboriginal cultural language and artistic expression, cultural forms that the residential schools sought to destroy. Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. Why would they want to destroy that? Oh yeah, well, the treaties. The damn treaties are getting in the way of progress. We need capitalism, consumerism. We need to create plastic and microplastics and make sure that it's in everybody's drinking water. The babies in the wombs are not getting enough plastic because of those damn treaties. We need to get rid of the treaties so we can put microplastics in the lungs of little children. It's not what they planned, but that's just what ended up happening, right? Well, I believe, had they done things the right way, they could have created an economy based upon the ebbs and flows of nature, a kind of symbiotic economy. But they felt that was too restrictive and that capitalism needs a free market because capitalism by nature will balance itself out. They think, but they're wrong. The Commission was able to share its work with Canadians everywhere and with a worldwide audience through live streaming and the national events on the internet and additional postings on the Commission's website. I wonder if you can still see them now. Social platforms. There were let's see. The Commission was able to share its work with Canadians everywhere with a this is cultural national events, truth and reconciliation. It's a lot of orange shirts. Some news. Let's see, short videos. And Instagram. Let's see. Yeah, it's there. It's there, but I don't know if I'd have to like change everything over. Get the thing, click it, and so you can see it. Just go look for it. I don't want to do it. I'm tired. Okay, we got 300 and something pages left to go. 388. No, we got 348 pages to go. Witnessing and expressions of reconciliation. Okay, what does that look like? Reconciliation. One of the goals of the Commission's public outreach activities was to encourage Canadians from all backgrounds to learn more about the legacy of residential schools and take part of the work of reconciliation by witnessing Commission events. Inviting respected guests to represent all witnesses to an event of conduct of business given. Inviting respected guests to represent all witnesses at an event or the conduct of business gives the event import of legitimacy and is in keeping with the traditions of many Aboriginal cultures. To this end, the Commission appointed honorary witnesses to be present at its major events. Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Michael Jean, who served as Governor General of Canada at the start of the Commission's mandate, agreed to be the Commission's first honorary witness. She began her role as a witness by hosting a special event called Witnessing the Future at Rideau Hall in Ottawa on October 15, 2009. In the following years, the current Governor General of Canada, His Excellency the Right Honourable David Johnstone, two former prime ministers, the Right Honourable Joe Clark and the Right Honourable Paul Martin. So you got a conservative and liberal former prime ministers, two former national Aboriginal leaders, Chief Phil Fontaine of the Assembly of First Nations and former Ambassador Mary Simon, past president of Inuit Tapirit Kanatami. I'm sorry, I can't speak Inuit. And a host of other distinguished individuals have all agreed to serve as honorary witnesses. The Commission also invited Canadians to make expressions of reconciliation at its national and regional events. The Commission received more than 180 expressions. That's not a lot. From individuals, organizations, and the parties to the settlement agreement who wished to publicly state their commitment to the journey of healing and reconciliation and speak to the ways in which they are contributing to that journey. Documents and items related to each expression of reconciliation were placed in ceremony in the beautiful bent wood box created by Coast Salish carver Luke Marston. The box will become part of the permanent legacy of the TRC House and National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Education and outreach. The Commission worked throughout its mandate to educate the public about the legacy of residential schools and to invite and encourage public participation in its events and activities. The Commission took part in nearly 900 separate events. These included a number of special events that the TRC organized with various partners to engage with survivors, organizations, and other Aboriginal groups, youth, women, faith communities, and the philanthropic community. And what is a philanthropic? Oh, it's where they do charity work, right? Philanthropy and New Canadians. The Commission also accepted the invitation to share information about its work internationally through the United Nations, the International Center for Transitional Justice, and a number of university law faculties. In the final year of its mandate, the Commission organized 2 events to gather additional information for its report. It held a Traditional Knowledge Keepers Forum to learn how traditional Aboriginal knowledge can contribute to reconciliation. How can traditional knowledge contribute to reconciliation? How would they do it? How would you? Well, first of all, I think the way I see it, you're going to, let's say if you did something wrong, you have to admit you did something wrong. And then you have, which is basically you have to reconcile with that. Now you have to realize, okay, what's the root cause that I did something wrong? Oh, I'm a narcissist, entitled person who thinks that you're inferior, and I've taken away your identity. Now, to make it right, I should help. Here's what I took from you. And here's what I continue to take from you. So there's this land that we took, and then there was these diamonds that we took out of the ground. We know that you had people buried there, but we really needed those diamonds, you see. And we put a pipeline through some of your drinking water that you consider sacred, but we don't consider it sacred because the oil, you see, is so important. We love it so much. So here's some drinking water. Give like a bottle. We From the oil we got, we made these plastic bottles and we put the water in that plastic bottle. Here, it's just as sacred, I guarantee it. Right? We put it in cellophane. All of the stuff we wrapped in cellophane. We were wrong. We were wrong about how we've conducted capitalism. And sharing isn't part of capitalism, but here, we're going to share with you. Oh, we know we've totally abused your children. We took away your children and we totally abused them. We're sorry about that. And here's some money. Are we going to fund mental health services? No. Are we going to increase funding in social work and psychology and mental health? No, we're not going to do that. What? What's that going to do? Mental health. Well, we can't afford it. Well, what about the money that you made from the diamonds that you took from the ground? Oh no, no. We spent that money on this new Dodge truck. You see, it has a Hemi in it, and oh, it makes this sound when you start up, like that. You can't have that. We need that money. Bullshit. You messed up a bunch of people. Do something. Commemoration and community events funding. The settlement agreement allocated $20 million for commemoration initiatives. You know, the whole intent. Oh, the whole intent. All right, was to get rid of the treaties because it hindered progress in capitalism. So it shouldn't be seen as reparations to a thing you did wrong, although that could be, it needs to happen. You have to like pay for the damages that you've created. But you have to go, okay, look, we've created this economic machine that we've pushed you out of partnership with. We're bringing you in now. And we notice that we have all of this intergenerational wealth that we kept you away from. So here's your part for the past 200 years, let's say. And now that it keeps you at equal footing as us, now let's start all over again. Let's really look at the treaties and let's share this equally the way that our ancestors agreed to. You know, that shouldn't that be happening? Shouldn't we be looking at that? Am I wrong about this? I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think I'm right. No, it's 20 million. That seems ridiculously low. That seems so low. These were defined as initiatives that would honor, educate, remember, memorialize, and pay tribute to former residential school students, their families, and their communities. The commission issued 2 separate calls for commemoration project proposals. The maximum funding award for a project by a single group was $50,000. Up to 10 communities could collaborate on a submission for a maximum contribution of $500,000, and a commemoration project of national scope was eligible for a contribution of up to $2 million. The commission recommended 152 projects to the Federal Department of Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development for funding, and 143 projects were approved. It is important to note that the commission's work inspired others to undertake commemorative projects using their own resources. One example is the government of Canada's decision to memorialize the legacy of Indian residential schools through the permanent. You got to look at the reason why the residential schools were created. And then you have to undo that reason. You have to, who's running this stuff? Anyways, I got to check it out. I got to talk to them. It's important to note the commission's work inspired others to undertake the commemorative projects using their own resources. Like it's like such a tiny solution to a big problem. The design selected for the window was created by Aboriginal artist Christy Belcourt and is entitled, I can't read that, Looking Ahead. It's a window. Which must be like significant because, just thinking about abuse and church and stained glass windows. Ugh. Yeah, it's a stained glass window. Mm, mm. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm reading this. I got ADD, ADHD, A something. I got something. All right. The commission issued a separate call for proposals for community events and allocated funding to approve projects up to a maximum of $15,000 per event. The TRC supported 75 community events. 75, yeah, which were designed to promote healing and reconciliation by developing collective community narratives about the impact of the residential school system on former students, families, and communities. In February 2012, as part of its mandate, the Commission issued an interim report with findings and recommendations along with a short history of residential schools entitled "They Came for the Children." Because, I know that it should be talked about, the abuse of the children and stuff like that, but it almost seems like it was done as a distraction to the bigger crime of cultural genocide. You know what I'm saying? Because the abuse, sexually and physically, of the children is one component to cultural genocide. So it could be encompassed into it. So when they say in February 2012, as part of this mandate, the Commission issued an interim report with its finding recommendations along a short history of residential schools entitled "They Came for the Children," it should be entitled "Cultural Genocide. They Came for the Children." Because recommendations on the interim report dealt with the gaps in school curricula, the Commission made it a priority to meet with provincial and territorial education ministers to advocate for the development of curriculum on the legacy of residential schools, their legacy of cultural genocide, and the mandatory adoption of the curriculum in all jurisdictions. I think that you're missing the forest for the trees. National Center for the Truth and Reconciliation, the Commission was mandated to create a national research center, which would hold all the material created and received as part of its work. The center is intended to be accessible to survivors, their families, and communities, as well as the general public. The Commission held a forum in March 2011 to consult with national and international experts on establishing such center. This informed the Commission's subsequent call for proposals to house the center. The Commission reviewed a number of proposals for housing the research center and, in June 2013, announced that the University of Manitoba had been selected to become the permanent host of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. The NCTR is governed by a trust deed and administrative agreement signed by the Commission and the University. A governing circle of survivors circle, a governing circle and survivor circle play important roles in ensuring the promises undertaken to survivors are honored. The NCTR also works in direct partnership with a growing number of universities, colleges, and other organizations across the country, including the University of British Columbia, the University of Winnipeg, l'Université de Boniface, Carleton University, and University of Regina, Lakehead University, University College of North Algoma University, Red River College, the Archives of Manitoba, the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, the National Association of Friendship Centers, the Legacy of Hope Foundation, and the Centre du Patrimoine. The goal is to create the broadest possible network from coast to coast to coast. The official opening of the summer of 2015, the NCTR will be the permanent home for all statements, documents, and other materials gathered by the Commission in the future. It will house other Indigenous collections. The NCTR will encourage and engage in respectful dialogue on many issues that hinder and foster reconciliation. It will ensure that survivors and families have access to their own history. Educators can share residential school history with new generations of students. Researchers can delve more deeply into the residential school experience and legacy. The public can access historical records and other materials to help foster reconciliation and healing. And the history and legacy of the residential school system are never forgotten. Well, yeah, that's like really important. But I think it's also important to talk about why it's happened. What is the root cause of the residential school? Why? Why? What was the motive behind it? The search to understand the truth about residential schools has taken the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to all parts of Canada. The Commission has listened to thousands of survivors give their accounts to the residential school experience and how that experience has shaped their lives. The Commission has explored what the legacy of the residential school system has meant to Aboriginal people, in particular to Canada as a whole. The journey led the Commission to chart some of the pathways described in this report that may lead eventually to reconciliation within this country. End notes. Endnotes to what? The history. Oh, boys. Now we're going to get to it. It can start with a knock on the door one morning. It is the local Indian agent, or the parish priest, or perhaps a mounted police officer. The bus for residential school leaves that morning. It is a day the parents have long been dreading. Even if the children have been warned in advance, oh God, the morning events are still a shock. The officials have arrived and the children must go. Frick. For tens of, I don't think I could ever do it. I don't think it's possible. For tens of thousands of Aboriginal children for over a century, this was the beginning of their residential schooling. They were torn from their parents, who often surrendered them only under the threat of prosecution. They would have to beat me. You'd have to threaten to beat me, to cut off my arms or something, so I wouldn't be able to. Then they were hurled into the strange and frightening place, one in which their parents and culture would be demeaned and oppressed. For Frederick Ernst Coe, it started when the Anglican minister and the mounted police arrived with a message that he had to leave his parents' home in Aklavik in the Northwest Territories that morning. And I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad and my brother Alan. Didn't get to pet my dogs or nothing. The day she left for the Letstock, Saskatchewan school, Marlene Casey's parents drove her into the town of Wadena. There was a big truck there. It had a back door, and that truck was full of kids, and there was no windows on that truck. Larry Beardy traveled by train from Churchill, Manitoba to the Anglican Residential School in Dauphin, Manitoba. A journey of 1,200 kilometers. That's like, reminiscent of taking people to concentration camps. You know what I mean? Kind of loading them up in trains and stuff. As soon as they realized that they were leaving their parents behind, and all the while they're like, okay, we're doing this as part of we're going to get them to stop thinking like Indians. We want them to think like white men. That was the whole idea. That's why we're doing this. But they're telling them, no, we're going to educate your children. You don't have a choice. We're going to put you in jail. As soon as they realized that they were leaving their parents behind, the younger children started crying. At every stop, the train took on more children, and they would start to cry as well. That train, I want to call that train of tears. Florence Harassi was taken to the Fort Providence, Northwest Territory in a small airplane. On its way to the school, the plane stopped at a number of small communities to pick up students. When the plane took off, there's about 6 or 5 older ones. Didn't cry, but I saw tears come right out of their eyes. Everybody else was crying. There's a whole... I wonder... And they kept on going like, okay, no, you know what? This is not working. Everyone's upset. This is not working. Let's stop this program right here. There's a whole plane crying. I want to cry too because my brother was crying, but I held my tears back and held him. The arrival at school was often more traumatizing than the departure. See, my grandfather, he went to a day school. Then this is what was told to me. He went to a day school. They beat him, and he's like, nope. And he ran out the window and never went back again. Then he never stayed in a place long enough that anyone, no RCMP officer or anybody, could take my father to residential school. They were moving from place to place to place, making tar paper shacks in the forest or finding work in certain places and just constantly moving. displacement. Because, like, who's going to want. Can you imagine that, though? Like, I'm. Like, what we're doing, what's happening is that you're kind of like, during COVID, a lot of people were coming to me and they're saying, I'm selling everything and I'm going to go move into the forest because they thought the end was coming. But for my grandfather, the end was coming, you know? So they mobilized themselves. They were constantly on the move. But that didn't happen in COVID. The end wasn't coming. You're just getting a vaccination. That's it. I got two. I'm fine. It was just a pandemic. There was nobody putting you in a residential school. Although maybe, okay, in the subconscious of the average Canadian, even though they don't want to admit that residential schools happened and they're basically, what do you call those, concentration camps for children, maybe there was a realization that it was there, that it could happen again, but this time it's happening to you. And there's that fear. The state could do it. They've done it before. Maybe. Mm. How long have I been doing this so far? Because this is going to be a hard. This is going to be a hard read. I know it. So, I don't know if I want to read this anymore. I don't know if I want to do this. I'm getting into the weeds of it, you know. I could end this right now, pick it up again tomorrow, because we went through the crap, all the bureaucratic stuff, and I've been doing this for how long? 30 minutes? An hour? An hour and 13 minutes. I totally could, you know. Mm, mm. Sorry, camera problems. I think I am going to end it there for today. And tomorrow night, I probably will read again because it's getting kind of heavy. And I don't know if I can emotionally handle it. I'll end up crying. I don't want to cry today. I'll get angry. I don't want to be angry right now. See, we have that luxury. I could do this. It's like, I don't want to deal with residential school today. Let's deal with it tomorrow. They didn't have that luxury back then, Gary. Yeah, I don't know. Being human and all. How can that's so? Okay, they're saying, oh, they're a bunch of savages. They're not human. We need to make them think like white men, us humans. But here I am, a native person, and I can't stand reading it. How can they stand doing it? Wouldn't you have to be inhuman in order to commit atrocities? Is that a type of projection? Not a type of projection, it's straight up projection. Right? Anyways, okay. I'm getting tired anyways. I've been reading for an hour, and I'm only on page 48. Tomorrow we'll read 10 more pages. Okay. Good night.